Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a really incredible explainer. We are heading down to the absolute bottom of the globe. Now, look, when most of us picture Antarctica, we kind of just see this sprawling, misshapen white blob, right? Just this completely barren wasteland sitting idly at the bottom of the map. But as we're about to see, nothing could be further from the truth. We're going to peel back the layers of this continent like a giant frozen onion, and I promise you, what is hiding beneath miles of solid ice is going to completely change how you view the modern world.
So, that brings us to the core mystery we're tackling today. What happens when a pristine, completely isolated frozen world actually hides a trillion-dollar geopolitical time bomb? Because we aren't just talking about penguins and glaciers here. No way! We're talking about mind-bending scientific anomalies, hidden underground volcanic caves, and a staggering resource discovery that has set a very real, very urgent ticking clock for the world's global superpowers.
Here's our roadmap for peeling back those layers today. First up, a misunderstood frozen giant. Second, canyons, mountains, and craters. Third, fire, water, and hidden life. Fourth, the massive oil discovery. And finally, number 5, the 2048 geopolitical clock. Okay, let's jump right in.
Section 1. A misunderstood frozen giant. So, for centuries, Antarctica's brutal environment basically kept human eyes completely away. I mean, to even get there, you have to cross the infamous Drake Passage. It is the roughest, most dangerous ocean crossing on Earth, where waves can literally reach 65 feet high. Because of that extreme isolation, human beings didn't even lay eyes on the actual continent until the 1820s.
But when you actually look at the scale, Antarctica utterly shatters that whole misshapen blob myth. It's the world's 5th largest continent. It's actually significantly larger than the entire lower 48 United States. Just to put that into perspective, if you picked it up and placed it over Europe, it would stretch all the way from the far northern reaches of Norway, straight down to Iraq, and push well past Ireland out into the Atlantic. It is an absolutely massive chunk of land.
And covering almost that entire massive landmass is a sheet of ice of just unimaginable scale. At its thickest points, it reaches nearly 5 kilometers of solid ice. 5 kilometers! That is almost 6 Burj Khalifas, the tallest building in the world, stacked directly on top of each other. And because of this sheer volume, this single ice sheet holds a staggering 61% of all the freshwater on planet Earth.
Section 2. Canyons, mountains, and craters. Now, because that ice is so incredibly thick and impenetrable, it's widely accepted that we actually know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the true landmass beneath Antarctica. But scientists have figured out a really clever workaround. The primary way we've mapped this hidden world without, actually drilling through miles of ice is through a technique called radio echo sounding. Basically, they fly planes over the ice, shoot radio waves down, and analyze the echoes to map the geography below. And what they've found down there is absolutely jaw-dropping. For instance, they discovered the Gamburtsev mountain range entirely buried under the ice. We're talking about a mountain range roughly the same length and height as the Alps in Europe, just completely hidden from human eyes.
And it goes down too, which builds an even more terrifying sense of scale. Beneath the Denman Glacier lies the deepest canyon anywhere on Earth's land surface. The lowest exposed point on land we usually think of is the Dead Sea, right? And that sits at 413 meters below sea level, while the Denman Glacier Canyon plunges an unbelievable 3.5 kilometers deep. That puts the Grand Canyon to absolute shame, and get this, we didn't even know it existed until 2019.
But the deep time mysteries get even stranger. Back in 2006, satellites detected a massive gravity anomaly in East Antarctica, basically an area where gravity is actually weaker than expected. Researchers believe this could be a buried meteorite impact crater spanning 480 kilometers wide. If that's true, this crater is 3 times the size of the Chicxulub asteroid crater that wiped out the dinosaurs. And its estimated age lines up incredibly well with an event 252 million years ago known as the Great Dying. Literally the most devastating mass extinction in Earth's history. So the answer to our planet's greatest murder mystery might physically be locked under the ice right now.
Which brings us to Section 3, Fire, Water, and Hidden Life. We tend to think of Antarctica as a sterile, frozen tomb. But we have to completely toss those expectations out the window, because deep beneath the ice, there is heat, there is liquid water, and there is thriving biology. Take Mount Erebus, for example. It's the southernmost active volcano on the planet. Up on the surface, temperatures can plummet to a deadly negative 62 degrees Celsius, cold enough to instantly turn boiling water into snow. But decades of hot volcanic steam have carved out this massive network of ice caves just beneath the surface. Inside these caves,
The temperature reaches a balmy 25 degrees Celsius, or about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. You could literally walk around in a t-shirt and shorts in the middle of the absolute coldest place on Earth. It's wild.
And where there is heat and water, there is life. Antarctica is hiding some crazy biological anomalies. Deep beneath the 4-kilometer ice sheet lies Lake Vostok, a liquid freshwater lake larger than Lake Michigan, which has been sealed off from the outside world for at least 15 million years. Drilling samples there have revealed totally unknown bacteria and even RNA sequences pointing to unrecorded fish species. And it's not just microscopic stuff. In 2021, researchers melted a hole through the camp ice stream, going 500 meters down into completely pitch-black freezing water. And what did they find? Swarms of shrimp-like amphipods absolutely thriving. Just a completely hidden ecosystem right under our noses.
Section 4. The massive oil discovery. Now, the geology that makes Antarctica scientifically fascinating also makes it highly lucrative. Because remember, millions of years ago, before it froze over, this continent was warm and teeming with plant and animal life. And over the eons, all that organic matter turned into hydrocarbons. Recently, evidence presented to the UK Parliament revealed that a Russian research ship operating in the Weddell Sea made a truly gargantuan discovery. 511 billion. That is the estimated number of barrels of oil sitting in this single, newly discovered Antarctic superfield. To truly wrap our heads around the economic gravity of this, 511 billion barrels of oil is roughly double the total known oil reserves of Saudi Arabia. Double! It's roughly 10 times the amount of oil that the entire North Sea has produced over the last 50 years combined. At current market prices, this field is theoretically worth tens of trillions of dollars. If a single nation were to somehow control and exploit this field, they could instantly eclipse Saudi Arabia and just fundamentally transform their position as a global superpower.
And that brings us to Section 5, the 2048 geopolitical clock. Right now, to be clear, no one is actively drilling for that oil, but the legal framework preventing a massive, chaotic resource grab is so much more fragile than you might think. Let's trace this back to 1959, right in the midst of the Cold War. 12 nations signed the Antarctic Treaty. This was a landmark agreement that essentially froze the continent to prevent militarization. It reserved Antarctica purely for scientific research and explicitly banned any resource mining or drilling. But here is the catch. That treaty comes up for review in the year 2048. At that point, any nation involved can legally walk away, and that ban on mining and drilling, it could very easily expire or be completely overturned.
And this is exactly where the geopolitics get incredibly tense. You see, there are complex, overlapping territorial claims in the exact region where this massive oil field was found. Specifically, claims by the United Kingdom, Argentina, and Chile. Now, these Antarctic claims are based largely on the ownership of nearby territories, things like the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, and the South Sandwich Islands. The overlapping claims between the UK and Argentina actually sparked the 1982 Falklands War. And while that conflict has mostly faded into the background of global geopolitics for a lot of people, the staggering new oil discovery directly overlaps both nations' claims. So the very legal basis for controlling this newly discovered multi-trillion-dollar oil field is deeply tied up in these historic, highly disputed borders.
So the ultimate takeaway here is that the countdown has already begun. As the global climate changes and the ice thins out, making extraction physically easier, the financial incentives are only going to skyrocket. What happens to international law, to world peace, and to a pristine, isolated continent when tens of trillions of dollars are suddenly on the line and that 2048 expiration date finally hits? It's a deeply uncertain future, and one that the whole world is going to be forced to confront very soon. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your curiosity sharp, and I'll see you next time as we dive into another fascinating topic.